My sister designed a grotesque, humiliating dress for me to wear as a last-minute replacement bridesmaid, planning to mock me before 300 wealthy guests. But she didn't know I had found the receipts of her betrayal. Instead of bowing her head, I destroyed her world. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The call came at 11:42 p.m. on a Tuesday, the kind of hour that screams crisis before you even look at the screen. I was sitting on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by stacks of yellowing letters from the 1920s. My work as a historical archivist often bled into my evenings, when the phone buzzed against the hardwood, scattering a pile of dust motes dancing in the lamplight. The name on the screen made my stomach tighten into a cold, hard knot. Vanessa. We hadn't spoken in 3 months. Not since she had told me, in no uncertain terms, that I didn't fit the aesthetic of her bridal party and would be better suited helping the catering staff with the seating arrangements. I stared at the phone. My thumb hovered over the decline button. I knew I should let it ring. I knew, with the deep, instinctual certainty of a younger sister who had spent 28 years as a punching bag, that nothing good could come from answering. But the ringing was persistent, angry, demanding. I slid the bar to answer. Hello. Megan, her voice was shrill, lacking even a preamble of pleasantries. It wasn't the sound of a sister, it was the sound of a commander whose troops were failing. You need to come to the estate. Now. Vanessa, it's nearly midnight, I said, my voice scratching with fatigue. I rubbed my eyes, smearing ink on my temple. I have work in the morning. The museum is opening the new exhibit and… I don't care about your dusty old papers, Megan, she screamed, the audio peaking and cracking in my ear. I pulled the phone away, wincing. Rosie is out. She's gone. She quit. I froze. Rosie? Rosie was Vanessa's best friend since high school. She was the maid of honor, the loyal soldier, the one who nodded enthusiastically at every exorbitant demand Vanessa made. For Rosie to quit 3 days before the wedding of the century, the wedding Vanessa had been planning since she was 6 years old, was cataclysmic. What do you mean she quit? I asked, my curiosity piqued despite my better judgment. Is she sick? She's dead to me, that's what she is, Vanessa spat. I could hear the sound of glass shattering in the background, followed by a muffled curse. She sent me a text. A text? She said she couldn't in good conscience stand by me. Can you believe the jealousy? She's just furious because Anthony is a partner at the firm and her boyfriend is still struggling. I frowned. That didn't sound like Rosie. Rosie was the definition of conscience. So, Vanessa continued, her voice dropping an octave, shifting from hysteria to that dangerous, silky tone she used when she wanted something. I have a gap in the lineup. The photos will be asymmetrical. It ruins the entire visual composition of the altar. I'm sorry to hear that, I said cautiously, but I'm sure you can find. It has to be you, she interrupted. You're the only one who fits the general dimensions, and your family. It looks better if it's family stepping in. It shows unity. Unity? I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Vanessa, you told me I would ruin the photos because I'm too plain. You said I have librarian energy that clashes with your Vogue vision. I was stressed, she snapped. Look, Megan, please, if you do this for me, I'll make sure Mom and Dad know how helpful you were. I'll tell them you saved the day. You know how much this means to them. That was the dagger. She knew exactly where to twist it. Our parents, wealthy, distant, and obsessed with appearances, worshipped the ground Vanessa walked on. I was the disappointment, the unmarried archivist who lived in a rent-controlled apartment and wore cardigans. Vanessa was the golden child, the influencer, the future wife of Anthony, the city's most eligible bachelor. I don't have a dress, I said, my resolve crumbling. I have Rosie's, Vanessa said quickly, too quickly. It's already paid for, you just need to come for a final fitting tomorrow. Please, Megan, don't make me beg, it's my wedding. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. I thought about Anthony. He was the one decent thing in Vanessa's orbit, kind, genuinely interested in my work, and always polite. He didn't deserve a disaster. Fine, I whispered. I'll do it. Good, Vanessa said. The emotion evaporated from her voice instantly, replaced by cold efficiency. Be at the bridal suite at 9:00 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. And Megan, wash your hair. Thoroughly. The line went dead. I sat there in the silence of my apartment, the phone still clutched in my hand. My heart was pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs, a primal warning I couldn't interpret yet. I thought I was stepping in to save my sister's big day, a final attempt to bridge the chasm between us. But as I stared at the dark screen, I realized the betrayal was far worse than the diagnosis of a ruined wedding party. I wasn't saving anything. I was walking voluntarily into a slaughterhouse. The next morning, the sky was a bruised purple, heavy with rain that refused to fall. I took the train out to the suburbs, the rhythmic clacking of the wheels on the track mirroring the anxiety pulsing in my temples. The estate Vanessa and Anthony had rented for the wedding week was ridiculous. It was a sprawling, faux French chateau with manicured hedges that looked like they were cut with laser precision. As I walked up the gravel driveway, I saw the flurry of activity. Florists hauling massive arches of white roses, lighting technicians rigging trusses, and caterers arguing over table linens. I found the bridal suite on the second floor. It was a cavernous room smelling of hairspray, expensive perfume, and nervous sweat. Vanessa was sitting in the center of the room like a queen on a throne, surrounded by 3 other bridesmaids who were currently massaging her hands and feeding her grapes. When I walked in, the room went silent. "You're late," Vanessa said. She didn't look up from her phone. "It's 8:58, I replied, checking my watch. "I'm early." "You're late in spirit," she countered, finally looking at me. Her eyes scanned me from head to toe, her lip curling slightly. "God, Megan, those shoes, are we hiking later?" "They're comfortable. I have to stand all day at the museum," I said, keeping my voice level. "Where is the dress? I can't stay long." Vanessa gestured vaguely to a garment bag hanging in the corner, isolated from the others. "That one? Put it on. I need to see if we need to take it in or let it out." The other bridesmaids giggled. I ignored them and walked over to the bag. I unzipped it, expecting the sleek, champagne-colored silk gowns I had seen on Vanessa's Instagram. Instead, I pulled out a monstrosity. It was neon chartreuse. The fabric was a cheap, shiny polyester that squeaked when it moved. But the color wasn't the worst part. The cut was aggressive. It was a strapless bodice that plunged dangerously low, with a high-low hemline that was practically a belt in the front and dragged a train in the back. It looked like a costume for a bad cabaret, not a dress for a black-tie wedding. "Vanessa," I said, holding it up, "this isn't the bridesmaid dress. The others are wearing champagne silk." "Rosie was the maid of honor," Vanessa lied smoothly, checking her reflection in a hand mirror. "She was supposed to stand out. Now you are, it's a statement piece. High fashion, you wouldn't understand." "This isn't high fashion," I argued, my face heating up. This is humiliating. It's barely a dress." "It's what I have," Vanessa snapped, standing up. The sudden movement made the other girls jump. "It's 2 days before the wedding, Megan. Do you want me to sew a new one myself? Put it on, or get out and tell Mom why you ruined the wedding." I looked at the dress, then at Vanessa. Her eyes were hard, daring me to challenge her. I knew the game. If I refused, I was the villain. I was the jealous sister who wouldn't wear a dress to help the bride. I went behind the changing screen. The fabric felt slimy against my skin. When I zipped it up, it was worse than I imagined. It was tight in all the wrong places, squeezing my ribs while gaping at the chest. I looked ridiculous. I looked like a desperate attempt to be noticed. I stepped out. The silence in the room was deafening. One of the bridesmaids, a girl named Chloe, covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. Vanessa stared at me, a slow, predatory smile spreading across her face. "Perfect," she whispered. It fits, exactly how I imagined. I can't wear this, Vanessa, I pleaded, crossing my arms over my chest to cover myself. Anthony's family is conservative. His partners from the law firm will be here. I look like a clown. You look like a supportive sister, she corrected. And besides, you'll be busy. Since you're stepping in late, I need you to handle the guest coordination during the reception. You'll be running around so much, no one will even notice the dress. Just try to suck in your stomach a bit. I felt tears pricking my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. Fine, I said, my voice tight. I'll wear it. Good girl, she said, turning her back to me. Now go, I have a massage scheduled. As I changed back into my clothes, shaking with humiliation, I realized something. Vanessa didn't just want me in the wedding to fill a spot. She wanted me there as a prop. A contrast. She wanted the ugly sister in the neon dress to make her look even more angelic in her white gown. It was a public shaming disguised as a favor. I grabbed my bag and hurried out of the suite, desperate for fresh air. I practically ran down the grand staircase, my vision blurry. I crashed into someone at the bottom of the stairs. Hard. Whoa, easy there. Strong hands grabbed my shoulders, steadying me. I looked up to see Anthony. He looked tired, dark circles under his eyes, but his smile was warm. Megan, he asked, surprised. I didn't know you were coming today. Is everything okay? I quickly wiped my eyes. Anthony, hi, yes, I'm the new bridesmaid, taking Rosie's place. Anthony's face fell. A shadow passed over his features, confusion, and something that looked like disappointment. Rosie isn't coming. Vanessa said she quit, I said, watching him closely. That she sent a text. Anthony frowned, looking toward the bridal suite. That doesn't make sense. I saw Rosie 2 days ago. She was upset, but she didn't say she was quitting. She was trying to show me something on her phone, but Vanessa came in and pulled her away. My internal archivist ears perked up, trying to show him something. What was she trying to show you? I asked. I don't know, Anthony sighed, running a hand through his hair. Vanessa said Rosie was just having a panic attack about her own relationship. Look, Megan, I'm glad you're here. Really, Vanessa has been difficult. Having you here will ground her. He squeezed my shoulder and walked away toward the gardens. I watched him go, a sinking feeling in my gut. He was a good man. He was walking into a marriage with a woman who treated people like accessories, and he had no idea. But as I touched the strap of my bag, I remembered Vanessa's smug smile. I remembered the neon dress. She thought she had won. She thought she had total control over the narrative. But she had forgotten one crucial thing. I was a historian. My entire life was built on digging up the truth that people tried to bury, and I had just found the first loose thread. To understand why I didn't just walk away right then, you have to understand the dynamic of the Caldwell family. We were built on a foundation of Vanessa first. When we were children, if Vanessa wanted a doll, she got it. If she broke it, she got mine. If I cried, I was being selfish. My parents weren't evil, but they were weak. They were enamored by Vanessa's charisma, her beauty, her ability to command a room even at age 7. I was quiet, bookish, and plain. In their eyes, I was fine. I was low maintenance. Vanessa was the star that needed constant fuel. I had spent 20 years making sacrifices for her. I did her homework in high school so she wouldn't get kicked off the cheer squad. I took the blame when she crashed Dad's car so her insurance rates wouldn't spike. I even introduced her to Anthony. Yes, that was the bitterest pill. I had met Anthony first. We met at a library fundraiser. We talked for 3 hours about architectural history. I felt a spark I hadn't felt in years. But when he came to pick me up for a coffee date a week later, Vanessa opened the door. She was wearing a towel. She accidentally dropped it. By the time I came downstairs, she had convinced him that I was actually busy and that she would love to go see that new art exhibit with him instead. I stepped aside, because that's what I did. I convinced myself he was too good for me anyway. But now, walking through the estate grounds, that old passivity was being replaced by a cold, hard anger. I needed to find Rosie. I pulled out my phone and dialed her number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Voicemail. I sat on a stone bench near the rose garden, thinking. Vanessa said Rosie quit via text because of jealousy. Anthony said Rosie tried to show him something on her phone. I opened my social media apps. I went to Rosie's profile. Her last post was from 3 days ago, a picture of the bridal party gifts Vanessa had given them. The caption was cryptic. Sometimes the diamond is just glass. Suddenly, a shadow fell over me. I looked up to see Harry, Anthony's brother and the best man. I barely knew Harry. He lived in Chicago and had only flown in yesterday. He was tall, with a sharper, more cynical version of Anthony's face. "You're the sister," he stated. It wasn't a question. "I am," I said, shielding my eyes from the sun. "You don't look like her," he observed, sitting down on the bench next to me, leaving a respectful distance. "That's a compliment, by the way." "Thanks," I muttered. "I'm Megan." "Harry, I just saw my brother. He looks like he's walking to the gallows." "He's just nervous," I said automatically. "No," Harry shook his head, lighting a cigarette. "He's trapped. He knows something is off, but he's too honorable to back out without proof. He loves the idea of her. The image she pro. Jax." Harry turned to me, his eyes piercing. "I saw you come out of the bridal suite. You looked like you were about to set the building on fire." "She has me wearing a neon chartreuse dress," I blurted out. It's aggressive." Harry laughed, a short bark of a sound. "Sounds like Vanessa, dominance display. But tell me, Megan, why did the other one leave? The nurse? Rosie?" "Vanessa says she was jealous. Anthony says she tried to show him something." Harry took a drag of the cigarette, exhaling a plume of blue smoke. "I saw Rosie, too. The night she left, she was in the parking lot. She was crying. And she was arguing with a guy, not her boyfriend." My heart skipped a beat. "Who?" "Some guy with a sleek ponytail. Leather jacket. Looked like he belonged in a club, not a country estate. I heard him say, 'If you show him, I leak the tape.' And then Rosie got in her car and peeled out." I stared at Harry. "Leak the tape." "That's what he said." Harry stomped out the cigarette. "I don't know what's going on, Megan, but my brother is a good guy. He's blind when it comes to love, but he's good. If he marries her and she's, whatever she is, it's going to destroy him, and I have a feeling you know that." I looked back at the house, where Vanessa was undoubtedly holding court, getting massaged, and laughing about how stupid I looked in the neon dress. She wasn't just a bridezilla. She was something much darker. She was manipulating everyone, Anthony, our parents, me, and even Rosie, to maintain her perfect facade. "I need to find Rosie," I said, standing up. "Do you have a car?" Harry stood up, a slow grin spreading across his face. He dangled a set of keys. "I have a rental, and I have a feeling the rehearsal dinner can survive without us for a few hours." "Let's go," I said. This wasn't just about a dress anymore. This was a rescue mission. Harry drove the rental car, a sleek, black sedan that smelled of artificial pine, with a kind of controlled aggression that matched my internal state. The windshield wipers slapped a frantic rhythm against the glass as the threatened rain finally broke, turning the pastoral countryside into a gray, blurred smear. "You're quiet," Harry said, his eyes fixed on the slick road. He didn't look at me, but his grip on the steering wheel was white-knuckled. "I'm cataloging," I murmured, staring out the window. "It's what I do. I'm trying to organize the data points. Vanessa's panic, Rosie's disappearance, the sudden opening in the bridal party, the neon dress." "The dress is a punishment," Harry said flatly. "That's not a data point, that's a weapon. She wants you to look ridiculous so she looks pristine. It's classic narcissism. But the Rosie thing, that's the variable that doesn't fit." We navigated the winding roads toward the city. I had used the Find My Friends app, a relic from a family vacation 5 years ago that Rosie, in her infinite loyalty, had never turned off. Her dot was pulsing in a frantic blue circle in a midtown apartment complex, 40 minutes away. "Tell me about Anthony," I said, turning to look at Harry. Does he really not know who she is? Harry sighed, a long, ragged sound. Anthony is an idealist. He sees the world as a contract. If he puts in good, he gets back good. He thinks Vanessa is just high maintenance, passionate. He interprets her cruelty as stress. He doesn't see the malice because he doesn't have any malice in him. It's his fatal flaw. He's going to get hurt, I said softly. If we don't find out what's going on, he's going to get destroyed, Harry corrected. There's a difference. We pulled up to Rosie's building an hour later. It was a modest brick walk-up, a stark contrast to the sprawling estate we had left behind. I buzzed her number. No answer. I buzzed again, holding the button down. Rosie, it's Megan, I shouted into the intercom. I'm with Harry. We're not leaving until you talk to us. There was a long silence, filled only by the static of the speaker and the drumming of rain on my hood. Then, a defeated buzz unlocked the door. We found Rosie in her living room. The apartment was in chaos, suitcases open on the floor, clothes thrown haphazardly into piles. Rosie herself looked like a ghost. Her eyes were swollen red, her hair matted, and she was clutching a mug of tea with trembling hands. You shouldn't be here, she whispered, not looking at us. She'll know, she always knows. Rosie, I said, stepping over a pile of sweaters to kneel in front of her. Vanessa told everyone you quit because you were jealous of her. She's dragging your name through the mud. Rosie let out a choked, hysterical laugh. Jealous of her? I pity her. I pity anyone who gets close to her. Harry saw you, I pressed gently. He saw you in the parking lot with a man, a guy with a ponytail. Rosie flinched as if I'd slapped her. She set the mug down hard on the coffee table, tea sloshing over the rim. That wa. Stefan. Who is Stefan? Harry asked, leaning against the doorframe, his presence filling the small room. Rosie looked up at me, tears streaming down her face again. He's her ex, from college, the bad boy she was supposed to have outgrown. And, I prompted, my heart hammering. And she never outgrew him, Rosie sobbed. Megan, she's been seeing him for months, even after the engagement. She meets him at his studio or at cheap motels. She gets a thrill out of it. She calls it her dirty little secret. I felt the air leave my lungs. Infidelity, it was cliché yet devastating, but why run? Why did you leave, Rosie? Did she fire you for finding out? No, Rosie shook her head violently. I found out because Stefan approached me. He's tired of being the side piece. He wants money. He told me to tell Vanessa to pay him $50,000 or he drops the evidence on the wedding day. I tried to warn her. I went to her room 2 nights ago. I told her Stefan was going to blow everything up. And she laughed, Rosie whispered, shivering. She laughed and told me to handle it. She said, that's what bridesmaids are for. She wanted me to pay him, with my own money, and when I refused, she told me she'd ruin me. She said she'd tell Anthony's firm that I stole drugs from the hospital where I work. She had fake emails drafted, Megan. She was ready to destroy my career just to keep me in line. The room went silent. The cruelty was so precise, so calculated. It wasn't just a bad sister, it was a sociopath. Do you have proof? Harry asked, his voice low and dangerous. Rosie sniffed, wiping her nose with her sleeve. Stefan sent me a preview, to prove he wasn't bluffing. He sent it to my phone. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her cracked iPhone. She tapped the screen a few times and handed it to me. It was a video. It was short, only 10 seconds, but it was undeniable. It was Vanessa, clearly recognizable in the passenger seat of a car, kissing a man with a ponytail. She was laughing, her engagement ring flashing in the sunlight as she ran her hand through his hair. Then, the audio. Anthony is such a bore, but he's a rich bore. Once the ring is on, I'm set, and we can have all the fun we want. I stared at the screen, a cold fury settling in my stomach. It was worse than infidelity. It was a predatory acquisition of a human being. She was harvesting Anthony for resources. Send it to me, I said, my voice steady. Megan, don't, Rosie pleaded. She'll destroy you too. No, I said, looking Rosie in the eye. She won't, because she thinks I'm weak. She thinks I'm the pathetic little sister who will wear a neon dress and say thank you. She has no idea what I'm capable of. I stood up, the digital evidence transferring to my phone. I had the weapon. Now I just needed the stage. The drive back to the estate was silent, but the energy in the car had shifted. We weren't just investigating anymore, we were hunting. We arrived as the rehearsal dinner was winding down. The estate was lit up like a Christmas tree, golden light spilling from the French doors onto the wet lawn. Laughter drifted out, the hollow, champagne-fueled laughter of people who had no idea they were dining on the edge of a volcano. "I need to talk to Anthony," Harry said, unbuckling his seatbelt. "I can't let him go through with the ceremony tomorrow knowing this." "No," I stopped him, grabbing his arm. "If you tell him now, he'll confront her privately. She'll lie, she'll spin it. She'll say it's a deep fake or an old video or that Rosie edited it. She's too good at manipulation, Harry. She has had a lifetime of practice." "So what, we let him marry her?" Harry snapped. "No, we let her expose herself," I said. "We need to break her control. And to do that, we need to shake her foundation before the final blow." I stepped out of the car and smoothed my rain-dampened hair. "I'm going in." I found Vanessa in the library, holding court with a glass of red wine in her hand. She looked ethereal in a white cocktail dress, her skin glowing, her smile perfect. Anthony was standing near the fireplace, looking distant, swirling his scotch. When Vanessa saw me, her smile didn't waver, but her eyes narrowed into slits. "Megan, there you are," she announced, her voice pitching up so everyone could hear. "We were all so worried, disappearing for hours. I hope you were getting a facial. You know how the cameras pick up. Texture." A few guests chuckled politely. Anthony looked up, relief washing over his face. "Megan, is everything okay?" I walked into the center of the room. My boots were muddy, my hair was frizzy from the rain, and I wore a cheap raincoat over my sweater. I looked like a mess. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care. "I was running an errand," I said calmly. "I went to see Rosie." The room didn't go silent, but the temperature within a 10-foot radius of Vanessa Doctor. Up to absolute zero. Her knuckles turned white around her wine glass. "Rosie," Vanessa laughed, a brittle sound. "Why would you bother? I told you she's having a breakdown. She's toxic." "That's funny," I said, turning to look directly at Anthony. "Because she didn't seem toxic. She seemed terrified." "Megan, stop it," Vanessa hissed, her smile vanishing. "You're making a scene." "I'm just confused," I continued, keeping my eyes on Anthony. "Vanessa told us Rosie quit because she was jealous of your success, Anthony, because her boyfriend was struggling." Anthony nodded slowly, looking between me and Vanessa. "That's what Vanessa said." Well, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, a printout of an email I had drafted on my phone and sent to the hotel's business center printer on the way in. It was a bluff, a prop, but a powerful one. "Rosie gave me the bank records she said you asked for, Vanessa, the ones regarding the hush money for the catering issue." It was a lie, a calculated, nonsensical lie designed to test the waters. Vanessa's face went gray. She didn't know what catering issue I was talking about, but the phrase hush money hit the target. She panic blinked. "I don't know what you're talking about," Vanessa stammered. "Anthony, she's drunk. Look at her. She's jealous that she's not the center of attention." "I'm not drunk," I said, my voice cutting through the room. "And neither is Rosie. She told me about the threats, Vanessa. She told me about the emails you drafted to get her fired from the hospital." Anthony stiffened. He set his drink down. "Threats? Vanessa, what is she talking about?" Vanessa slammed her wine glass down on a coaster, wine splashing onto the antique table. "She is lying. They are conspiring against me. My own sister and my best friend are trying to ruin my wedding because they are miserable, lonely spinsters." She marched up to me, her face inches from mine, smelling of expensive vintage and venom. "Get out. Go to your room. If you say another word, I will have security throw you out, and you will never see your nieces or nephews again. Do you understand me?" I looked into her eyes. I saw the fear behind the rage. She was terrified. She knew I knew something, but she didn't know how much. "I'm going," I said softly. I just wanted to make sure Anthony knew that Rosie didn't abandon him. She was pushed. I turned and walked out. As I left the library, I heard Anthony's voice, low and firm. "Vanessa, we need to talk. Now." "Oh, Tony, don't be ridiculous." Vanessa's voice wavered, pitching into a whine. "She's mentally unstable. Mom always said so." I leaned against the wall in the hallway, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. I hadn't revealed the affair, not yet, but I had cracked the lens. Anthony was now looking at her with suspicion. He was primed. And tomorrow, I would shatter the glass completely. The morning of the wedding dawned with a cruel, brilliant sunshine. The storm had passed, leaving the world scrubbed clean and bright, perfect weather for a wedding or an execution. The bridal suite was a war zone. The air was thick with tension. Vanessa was manic. She snapped at the makeup artist, made the florist cry, and threw a bagel across the room because it had the wrong kind of seeds. She ignored me completely. It was a strategic shunning. She assumed that her threat last night had worked, that I was cowed into submission. I sat in the corner, clutching the garment bag containing the neon chartreuse nightmare. "Time to get dressed," the wedding planner chirped, her cheerfulness sounding forced and brittle. I went behind the screen. I stripped down and stepped into the dress. It was just as horrific as before. The neon green clashed violently with my pale skin. The bodice dug into my ribs. The high-low hemline exposed my knees in a way that felt juvenile and awkward. I looked in the mirror. I looked like a joke, a punchline. But as I stared at my reflection, I didn't feel the shame I had felt yesterday. I felt armored. This dress was the symbol of her cruelty. Wearing it was the ultimate proof of her character. I reached into my bag and pulled out the flash drive I had prepared with Harry's help. We had transferred the video file, along with screenshots of the texts Rosie had sent, onto this single drive. I walked out from behind the screen. The room stopped. The other bridesmaids, dressed in their elegant champagne silk, averted their eyes, embarrassed for me. Vanessa turned around. She was fully dressed in her gown, a $50,000 lace masterpiece that made her look like a princess from a fairy tale. She looked at me, and a cruel, satisfied smirk touched her lips. "Well," she purred, "at least you're bright. You'll make sure the waiters know where to bring the appetizers." "I'm happy to help," I said, my voice steady. "I'll do whatever is needed for the speech toast." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Oh, God, you're not giving a speech. Harry is giving the toast. You just stand there and look supportive." "Actually," I said, "Mom asked if I could say a few words, just about sisterhood, since I'm the maid of honor now." Vanessa hesitated. She knew refusing our mother was a tactical error. "Fine, 2 minutes. And if you embarrass me, Megan, I swear to God." "I wouldn't dream of it," I lied. There was a knock at the door. It was Anthony. "Can I come in?" he called out. Usually, it's bad luck for the groom to see the bride, but Anthony sounded desperate. "No," Vanessa shrieked, "bad luck." "I need to speak to Megan," Anthony said through the door. His voice was strained. Vanessa shot me a look of pure hatred. "Go, get rid of him." I opened the door and stepped into the hallway, closing it behind me. The neon dress rustled noisily. Anthony stood there in his tuxedo. He looked exhausted. He hadn't slept. "Megan," he said, his eyes scanning my face. He barely registered the hideous dress, which told me how distressed he was. "Last night, what you said about Rosie. Did Vanessa really threaten her?" I looked at this man, decent, kind, and completely ensnared. I wanted to tell him everything right there. I wanted to show him the phone. But if I did, the wedding would be called off privately. Vanessa would spin a narrative that Anthony got cold feet or that I broke them up with lies. She would emerge the victim. She would keep her social standing, and she would hunt me down. No, the truth had to be public. It had to be witnessed by the 300 people whose opinions Vanessa valued more than her own soul. Anthony, I said, placing a hand on his arm. Vanessa is under a lot of pressure, but you need to trust your gut. You're a lawyer, you look at evidence, you look at character. I feel like I don't know what's real anymore, he confessed, rubbing his temples. She told me this morning that you have a history of lying, that you're off your medication. Is that true? I smiled sadly. I've never been on medication, Anthony, and I'm an archivist. My entire life is dedicated to preserving the truth. I leaned in closer. Just promise me one thing, listen to the speeches, really listen. He looked at me confused but nodded. I promise. Good, now go wait at the altar. He turned and walked away, his shoulders heavy. I watched him go, clutching the flash drive in my sweaty palm. I went back into the room. Vanessa was reapplying her lipstick. Is he gone? She snapped. Yes, he's ready. Good, she stood up, smoothing her skirt. Let's get this over with. And Megan, try to stand in the back. We don't want that dress ruining the wide shots. Don't worry, Vanessa, I thought as I followed her out the door. By the time I'm done, no one is going to be looking at the dress. I walked toward the ceremony, the neon fabric swishing around my legs, the digital grenade in my pocket burning a hole in the cheap polyester. The trap was set. The players were in position. It was time for the show. The reception was held in a glass-walled ballroom that looked out over the estate's illuminated lake. It was a scene of aggressive opulence. Crystal chandeliers the size of small cars, tables laden with lobster and truffles, and a live orchestra playing soft jazz. And there I was, the visual glitch in Vanessa's perfect matrix. The neon chartreuse dress seemed to glow under the dimmed lights. Every time I moved, the polyester rustled like a bag of chips. I could feel the eyes of the 300 guests, senators, partners from Anthony's law firm, socialites, and influencers, burning into me. I heard the whispers. Is that the sister? Why is she wearing that? Poor Vanessa, she must be mortified. Vanessa, of course, was reveling in it. She had positioned the head table so that I was seated at the very edge, next to a pillar, yet perfectly visible to the room. She treated me like a servant throughout the dinner. Megan, she'd called out over the microphone during the salad course, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. My train is bunched up. Could you fix it? You're the only one not eating right now. I hadn't been served yet. I stood up, walked over to her chair, and adjusted the lace, feeling the heat of 300 stares. Make sure you get the dust off, she hissed, low enough that only I could hear. And suck in your gut, you look like a highlighter. I returned to my seat, my hands trembling, not from shame, but from the adrenaline of imminent detonation. I touched the pocket of my dress. The flash drive was there. The speeches began at 9:00 p.m. Harry went first. He stood up, looking handsome but grim. He kept it short, praising Anthony's integrity and loyalty. He didn't mention Vanessa once. It was a glaring omission that the guests were too drunk or polite to notice. Then the DJ's voice boomed. And now, a special toast from the maid of honor D's sister of the bride, Megan. A ripple of amused condescension went through the room. Vanessa leaned back in her chair, sipping her champagne, a smirk playing on her lips. She expected me to stumble, to stutter, to look pathetic in my clown dress, and deliver a boring, stammering speech about how lucky I was to be related to her. I walked to the podium. The microphone felt cold and heavy in my hand. I looked out at the sea of faces. I saw my parents at the front table, looking at me with an expression of pained tolerance. I saw Anthony, looking hopeful, desperate for a moment of genuine connection in the circus. Good evening, I said. My voice was steady, clearer than I expected. For those who don't know me, I'm Megan, Vanessa's sister. I paused. The room was silent. My sister is a person who values presentation, I continued, gesturing to my neon dress. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the crowd. She believes that image is everything. That if you dress the part, if the lighting is right, if the filter is strong enough, you can make people believe anything. Vanessa's smile faltered slightly. She set her glass down. "But I'm a historian," I said, gripping the podium. "And in my line of work, we don't look at the image, we look at the record, we look at the documents, we look at the truth that gets hidden in the archives." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the flash drive. "Vanessa wanted a slideshow of memories tonight," I said, turning to the AV technician who was standing by the projector laptop. I had spoken to him earlier, slipping him a $50 bill to ensure he played my drive without questions, claiming it was a surprise video greeting from our grandmother. But I think it's important to look at the recent history, the history that brought us to this altar. I handed the drive to the tech. He plugged it in. "Hit play," I commanded. The massive projection screen behind the head table, which had been displaying a looped monogram of V and A, flickered. Then the video appeared. The audio was crisp, amplified by the ballroom's state-of-the-art sound system. It started with a laugh, Vanessa's laugh. The image resolved. It was the interior of a car. The sun was shining. Vanessa was reclining in the passenger seat, her feet on the dashboard. Leaning over the console, kissing her neck, was Stefan. His ponytail was clearly visible. The entire room gasped. It was a sound I will never forget, a collective intake of breath from 300 people simultaneously. On the screen, Vanessa pulled away from the kiss, looking at the camera with a devilish grin. "Stop it, Stefan," the video Vanessa giggled. "I have to go meet Anthony for a tasting." "Does the lawyer know you're here?" Stefan's voice asked. "God, no," she replied, rolling her eyes. "Anthony is such a bore, but he's a rich bore. Once the ring is on, I'm set. I just need to get through the wedding, secure the assets, and then, well, we can have all the fun we want on his dime. He's so desperate for love, he'll believe anything I tell him." The video cut to black. For 3 seconds, there was absolute silence. No forks clinked, no glasses moved. The only sound was the hum of the projector fan. Then chaos. "Turn it off," Vanessa screamed. It was a primal, animalistic shriek. She lunged across the table, knocking over a centerpiece and a bottle of wine. "Turn it off right now. It's a lie, it's fake." She looked wildly around the room, her eyes wide with terror. "It's AI. Megan made it with AI. She's jealous. She's trying to ruin me." But no one was looking at Vanessa. Everyone was looking at Anthony. Anthony hadn't moved. He was sitting perfectly still, staring at the blank screen where the image of his fiancée calling him a rich bore had just been. His face was unreadable, drained of all color. Slowly, deliberately, he stood up. He turned to look at Vanessa. She froze, her chest heaving, red wine dripping from the tablecloth onto her pristine white gown. "Anthony, baby," she pleaded, her voice trembling, switching instantly to victim mode. "You don't believe her, do you? Look at her. She's crazy. She's always hated me." Anthony looked at her, really looked at her. It was as if the filter had finally dropped, and he was seeing the raw, unedited file for the first time. "That wasn't AI, Vanessa," Anthony said. His voice was not loud, but in the silent room, it carried like a gunshot. "It was," she sobbed, reaching for his hand. He recoiled as if she were radioactive. "No," Anthony said, shaking his head. "Because I recognize the car. It's the vintage Mustang you told me you sold to pay for the venue deposit. But you didn't sell it, did you? You gave it to him." Vanessa's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. The trap had snapped shut. Anthony reached up and unpinned the boutonniere from his lapel, a white rose Vanessa had chosen. He placed it gently on the table. "I'm done," he said. "Hey," turned to the crowd, his lawyerly composure holding by a thread. "I apologize to everyone for wasting your time. There will be no wedding. The bar is open. Please, drink on my tab. I won't be joining you." He walked off the dais, down the steps, and toward the exit. "Anthony, no, you can't leave me," Vanessa screamed, chasing after him. She tripped on her massive train, stumbling to her knees in the middle of the dance floor. "Anthony, please, what about the honeymoon? What about the apartment?" She looked up, mascara running down her face, searching for an ally. She looked at our parents. My mother had her hand over her mouth, weeping silently. My father looked away, unable to meet her eyes. Then Vanessa looked at me. I was still standing at the podium in my ridiculous neon chartreuse dress. "You," she hissed, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You ruined everything, you jealous, ugly little." "I didn't ruin anything, Vanessa," I said into the microphone, my voice echoing through the hall one last time. "I just archived the truth." I stepped down from the podium. Harry was waiting for me at the bottom of the stairs. He held out his arm. "Shall we?" he asked, a grim smile on his face. "We shall," I replied. We walked out of the ballroom together, leaving Vanessa kneeling in the wreckage of her own making, sobbing into the silence of 300 strangers. The fallout was nuclear. I didn't stay to watch the debris settle. Harry drove me away from the estate that night, the black sedan cutting through the darkness like a knife. We picked up Rosie, who was waiting at a diner 3 towns over, and the 3 of us drove back to the city in a silence that felt sacred. I expected to feel guilty. I expected the old programming, the sisterly duty, the family loyalty to kick in and make me feel like a monster. But as I watched the highway lights blur past, all I felt was a profound, quiet lightness. It was the feeling of setting down a backpack filled with bricks that you didn't realize you were carrying. The next few weeks were a blur of angry voicemails and legal maneuvering. My parents were furious. Not at Vanessa for cheating, lying, and plotting to defraud a good man, but at me for airing the family laundry. "You could have handled this privately," my mother shrieked over the phone the next day. "You humiliated us, Megan. The senator was there. How can we show our faces at the club?" "If I had done it privately, she would have talked her way out of it," I told her calmly. "And Anthony would be married to a woman who called him a resource." "You're cut off," my father barked. "Don't expect a cent from us." "I have a job, Dad," I replied. "I pay my own rent. I don't need your money. And frankly, if the price of your approval is enabling a sociopath, I don't want it." I hung up. It was the first time I had ever hung up on my father. It felt fantastic. Vanessa didn't go quietly. She tried to spin the narrative online. She posted a long, tearful video on Instagram claiming she was the victim of a deepfake revenge plot orchestrated by her jealous sister and a disgruntled ex. But the internet is a ruthless detective. One of the guests at the wedding had recorded the entire confrontation on their phone and uploaded it to TikTok. It went viral overnight. People dissected the video. Lip readers analyzed Vanessa's reaction. Internet sleuths found Stefan's social media, where he had foolishly posted photos of himself in the Mustang with the caption, "Thanks for the ride, V." The court of public opinion ruled against her. She lost her brand deals. Her follower count plummeted. She was forced to delete her accounts and move back in with our parents, who were now stuck with the monster they had created. As for me, 3 months later, I was sitting in my office at the museum, wearing a comfortable wool sweater and sensible shoes. I was archiving a collection of suffragette diaries, reading about women who fought for their voices to be heard. There was a knock on the door. I looked up to see Anthony. He looked different, lighter, younger. He wasn't wearing a suit, just jeans and a blazer. "Hey," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "Hi," I smiled, putting down my pen. "You look alive." "I feel alive," he laughed. "It's amazing how much energy you have when you're not constantly trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom." He walked in and sat on the edge of my desk. "I wanted to thank you, Megan. Personally, I know what that cost you, your family. I know they aren't speaking to you." "They're speaking at me," I corrected. "But I'm not listening anymore. It was worth it, Anthony. You didn't deserve that." "Neither did you," he said softly. "The dress, the way she treated you, I'm sorry I was too blind to stop it earlier." "We were both blind," I said, "but we can see now." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. For a second, my heart stopped, fearing it was a ring. He laughed at my expression. "Relax, it's not jewelry." He opened it. Inside was a small, antique brass key. "I bought a building," he said. Ideally, I want to turn it into a community legal center, pro bono work, but the top floor, it has these incredible skylights and climate control. I remember you saying the museum was running out of storage space for the rare manuscripts. I stared at the key. Anthony, are you offering me an archive? I'm offering you a space, he said. Harry is doing the landscape design for the courtyard. Rosie is going to run the community outreach. We're building something real, Megan. No filters, no facades. We could use a historian to keep us honest. I took the key. It was cool and heavy in my hand. It didn't feel like a gift. It felt like an opportunity, a new chapter. I'd like that, I said. That evening, I went home and opened my closet. Buried in the back, stuffed into a trash bag, was the neon chartreuse dress. I took it out. I walked it down to the dumpster behind my apartment building. I didn't burn it. I didn't cut it up. I just tossed it in with the rest of the garbage. It wasn't a symbol of my humiliation anymore. It was just trash, and I had no room for trash in my life. I walked back upstairs, the cool night air filling my lungs, ready to write my own history.